Good. We'll call to order the meeting of the Edina City Planning Commission for September 14th, 2011. Jackie, would you please call the roll?
Here.
Here.
Here. Here. And we would like to welcome tonight our newest student member to the Planning Commission, Emily Tchaikovsky. Emily, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm a junior at Edina High School, and I participate in Student Council in Zephyrus.
Good. Well, welcome to the Planning Commission.
Thank you.
The next item of business is the approval of the meeting agenda, which you've received. We note that item B11-035 has been tabled at the request of the applicant. Are there any other changes to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to approve the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good. The agenda is approved. Next item is approval of the consent agenda. First item there, approval of the minutes of the August 31, 2011 Planning Commission meeting. Are there any suggestions, comments, changes necessary to those minutes which you received in your packet? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. During the community comment section, resident are invited to share any issues or concerns that haven't been considered in the past 30 days, that are not stated for future consideration, and they're not on tonight's agenda. Are there any items for community comment? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the next item, public hearings. And the first item is item 2011.008.11A, rezoning site plan and comprehensive plan amendment for Comcast at 9699 Data Park Drive, Edina, Minnesota, for improved site for additional parking stalls. Kerry?
Thank you, Chair Grable, members of the Planning Commission. This property is located on the western border of the city, right along Highway 169 and north of the crosstown. It's this little sliver piece here. This is a unique property in that the majority of this site is located in the city of Minnetonka, the Comcast site we're looking at right here. And the portion of the property is located, this 3-acre little sliver piece is located within the city of Edina. The applicant they're going through some interior remodeling within the building, and their company is growing quite large, and they're in need of more parking space. It's not a building addition, but they need more parking for the existing space. So they have been working primarily with the city of Minnetonka on where to locate this parking lot. And in an effort to save some pretty significant trees and avoid this steep slope area, they're looking at expanding out to the east and onto the city of Edina property. This property is currently zoned R1, low density residential single family dwelling district, and is guided for that in our comprehensive plan. It's been used as a holding spot, if you will, for future development. Traditionally in Edina, vacant property has been zoned and guided with that low density designation, and I think this is a remnant that's just carried over from comprehensive plan to comprehensive plan. So with that, this request, in order to do a site plan on that property, a comprehensive guide plan amendment from low density residential to office to allow that parking lot expansion is required, and also a rezoning from R1 to POD1 to accommodate that office use, and then also a preliminary and final site plan. One issue of note, there is a wetland located on the property right here. It's what they're telling us is that it has formed over time, kind of a low-grade wetland, as a result of the development to the north. And they're proposing to fill that and purchase wetland credits from the watershed district to replace wetlands off-site. So this request requires approval from the City of Minnetonka and from the 9 Mile Creek Watershed District as our regulatory authority for these types of things, including that wetland replacement. So any approvals that the city gives will be contingent on approval from the City of Minnetonka and from the 9 Mile Creek Watershed District. So the primary issue that staff considered in reviewing this is the guide plan amendment rezoning and site plan reasonable for the site. We believe that it is, essentially for three reasons. The R1 zoning has traditionally been used as a placeholder for future development. Again, vacant land is traditionally zoned R1. Surrounding land uses here are all office. This is guided mixed use in the City of Minnetonka, but primarily office space in the surrounding areas. You've got the freeways to the east and to the south. It just doesn't seem appropriate to develop this site with low-density residential. And lastly, as I mentioned earlier, they've worked closely with the City of Minnetonka's environmental staff to try to minimize impacts to the slopes and to the mature trees located on the site, as you can see with the aerial. So with that, staff is recommending approval of the guide plan amendment, the rezoning, and the site plan, subject to the findings that are outlined in your staff report and the three conditions that are outlined. And I can stand for any questions you might have.
Thank you, Kerry. Questions of staff? Commissioner Forrest?
I couldn't tell from the materials we obtained, is that a road on the east side that provides access to the parking lot?
Oh, excellent question. I didn't point that out. Yes, the access to that parking lot would come from this access road in this location here. Is that correct? Yeah. It's currently there. Yeah, it's a current road. There is a cell tower located right here. So that road is used primarily for access to the cell tower located right there.
And one other question, the surrounding Edina properties are rated PID. Would that zoning preclude the purpose that's being proposed here?
PID would work for this, well, for the office use that's located. That would work in this location as well.
It looks from looking at the overhead photo that the only access to that site is through other parking lots in that area. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, if we go back. Yeah, this slide would show it. Data Park Drive comes in this location here, and that driveway access, you're correct, does come through the United Health Group parking lot, located right here, and then access down this way. A little closer look at it.
And the only reason I point that out, in case somebody has a question about it, is that there's just, other than a parking lot, there's probably no other use to which this property could be put.
Correct. There's no direct street access for just this portion of the property.
Okay. Other questions of staff? Commissioner Staunton?
Just wanted to ask you, Kerry, a little bit about the this notion of using the R1 as a holding zoning when you've got vacant land. I assume the reason for that is that's the kind of lowest zoning, and so it gives you the most flexibility depending on what might happen in the future.
Right. Yep.
So that's the default we use if there's a vacant piece of property.
That's been the past practice, right?
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions of staff? Commissioner Staunton?
The wetland issue, is that 9 Mile Creek, is that their response? I mean, I'm always trying to make sure I understand where our responsibility is on the wetland stuff and where 9 Mile Creek is responsible for regulating that. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
It is the 9 Mile Creek Watershed District's responsibility. I had a conversation with Bob Obermeyer from the district a couple of weeks back, and it's not a done deal that this is going to be acceptable to them. They were going to have a group go out and take a look at the site and evaluate the quality and try to make a determination as to whether it would be beneficial to create better, higher quality wetlands offsite as opposed to this. So it's not a done deal that it's going to be approved yet, but it is their jurisdiction.
But we generally don't, we make it a condition that they get watershed district approval, but we don't generally do our own independent review of the wetland or watershed issues,
That's
do we?
correct. We rely on the watershed.
Commissioner Forrest?
Just harking back to consistency, I'm wondering if you know what the rest of the parcel is zoned as in Minnetonka, if that's an office or an industrial zoning district.
But I'm trying to think back to my time as the planner there. I believe it's a mixed-use district. That's my recollection, but I'm not 100% certain.
Other questions of staff? Thank you. Does the proponent wish to make a statement concerning this project? Does anyone wish to speak against this project? Or in favor, does anybody else wish to speak? There's nobody else in the audience. Since there's no one else wishing to speak on this matter, I will take a motion to close the public hearing. Is there a second? All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, the public hearing is closed. Are there comments, questions, concerns here by the commission? Commissioner Staunton.
I just wanted to pick up on Commissioner Forrest's point and make sure that I understand it. Did you say PID is the, I'm trying to understand, you were making a point about the kind of surrounding zoning within Edina.
Right.
And I'm just looking at that map that's on page A3 of our packet and trying to make sure I understand what the surrounding.
The yellow is planned industrial district.
Okay, so that's what you're referring to.
That's what I'm referring to.
And then the blue, or Carrie, maybe you can help.
That's residential.
That's
One of the
high-density residential.
PRD.
Correct.
And there are no other, there's no other properties other than that 5816 up by Londonderry Drive? There's no other properties on that, well, that's not even on, that's on the other side of 169, isn't it? So is this the only parcel on the west side of 169?
Correct. There's another little sliver piece. It's
The
highlighted number 24. That's owned by United Health Group.
That's part of the road access that we were discussing?
Right.
Okay. I mean, I'm inclined, I agree with Commissioner Forrest's rationale in general, but with 169 in between, I'm not sure that it's not as critical for me if there's a big highway like that in between. The other comment I just wanted to make is that I am ordinarily, at least after lots of experience on the Planning Commission, proceed with great caution when it comes time to amend the comprehensive plan. But it seems like this is one of the situations where it's not likely that there's a lot of neighbors who are concerned about it, and I think most people probably, if you asked them, would say that they thought the property was in Minnetonka since it's on the other side of 169. So I'm not too distressed about the change to the comprehensive plan, even though ordinarily I would proceed with great caution on that.
Commissioner Carpenter?
I join in that. In general, this is an extremely unique situation, and I share Commissioner Staunton's comments with respect to and thoughts with respect to the idea that this is uniquely on the other side of the highway. It's this vestigial piece that almost, as a practical matter, it strikes me as something that deference to the city of Minnetonka was almost warranted for this. So from that perspective, I'm all in favor of this.
Other comments by the commission? Would anyone care to make a motion? Commissioner Staunton?
I'd move approval based on the staff report, recommendations and findings.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second, with the caveat that that it includes the conditions contained in the report as well. Those conditions including the the approval by the city of Minnetonka.
As well as the watershed district.
Right,
Yeah, I
both
intended that to be included in the motion. Thank you.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to approve 2011.0008.11A, subject to the findings. The guide plan change is consistent with adjacent land uses, that the R1 zoning of the site was to serve as a placeholder, and that development of the site is not, as low-density residential is not practical, and subject to the following conditions: that the grading, park construction, and wetland filling is subject to approval of the 9 Mile Creek Watershed District, that the project receives approval from the city of Minnetonka, and that the site plan must be constructed within 2 years of city council approval. Is there any other discussion on this motion? Commissioner Forrest?
I just want to clarify then, that, does that mean that if this does not get the approvals from the city of Minnetonka and the watershed district, that this is not being recommended for rezoning as well, or comp plan amendment? I mean, that's how I read it here.
That's the sense I have, yes.
Great, thanks.
Other comments? Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, item 2011-0008.11A has been approved, subject to those conditions. That concludes the public hearing portion of the agenda. The next item is reports and recommendations. Any items for consideration? Commissioner Staunton?
I never know whether it's in reports and recommendations or commission member comments, but I do have some reports on the Grandview Small Area Planning process. I can provide them whenever it's appropriate.
This would be a wonderful time for that.
Then I'll do that. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to update the commission and any members of the public who are watching the meeting this evening that we are moving ahead with the small area planning process, and the council at its September 6th meeting approved the steering committee's work plan, proposed work plan, and approved engagement of a team of consulting experts to assist us with this next portion of the process. We have scheduled public community workshops for September 21st is the first one. The second will take place on October 25th, 26th, and 27th. And the third and final workshop will take place on November 15th and 16th. The first workshop on the 21st of September is scheduled to take place. It's kind of a day-long adventure. We will do the first part of the day over at the Grange Hall, just across the street from the City Hall. And that will consist of discussions between the steering committee and the work groups that the steering committee has broken into, and the consulting team. And then the consulting team will be interviewing city staff to gather information, and will in the afternoon have a session with local business and property owners to gather additional information. And then in the evening, beginning at 6:30 here at City Hall and the City Council chambers, we will have kind of a public presentation, which will be a summary of what we know, what work has been done to date, what things we know about the district and the properties, and kind of trying to set a baseline or a common starting point for everybody as we move forward with the process. So we invite members of the public to join us. If you're new to the process, the easiest place to access it might be the evening meeting, but you're certainly welcome to join us at the Grange Hall during the day as well. And we're looking forward to moving forward with this process, and you'll hear more about locations and specific times for the second and third workshops as we move along. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you for your work on that issue. Other comments reports or recommendations from members of the commission. All right, next item is correspondence and petitions. In your packet, you received the council connection, the report of the, or the summary of the September 6th meeting of the City Council. Wherein one item they did do is review the sketch plan on the service station there at 69th and France Avenue. And we also received, thank you, Jackie, for a new Planning Commission roster, so you've got that for your file as well. Next item, Chair and Commission member comments. Everybody received, I think, an invitation to an event next 2 weeks from today, and I can't remember the sponsor's name, but it is the American Institute of Architecture is doing a presentation at lunchtime on pocket neighborhoods, which I found very interesting. I am going to be attending that. I don't know if anybody else has requested to be attending, but it kind of ties in with the sketch plan that we reviewed a couple of meetings ago on the, what was it, Bishop's Walk or whatever it was called, the concept of a small, compact, sort of individual standing homes development type of thing, which I personally found very interesting, and I'm looking forward to the presentation. I understand from Chair Planner Teague that we may have another sketch plan on that same property as well, which may lead to some discussion we ought to have on how many times can you bring a sketch plan back. Are there any time limits in between? So we may want to take that up at the next meeting or the meeting after that. Also, Planner Teague, would you mind discussing some of the things that we've talked about and what we've got teed up for some of the upcoming meetings?
Certainly. Thank you, Chair Grable. We're thinking in the next few meetings that we get back at our zoning ordinance update work. Some of the items that I was thinking of bringing back, first is the site plan review. A couple of months back, the Commission requested some additional information about how other cities regulate staff approving site plans that are approved by the Council. So we'll be coming back with that one. Also, the utility box issue. You recall with the York Gardens project where they had the large air conditioning unit. We want to look at an amendment to the code to address that, so we'll bring that one forward. We're also wrestling with an issue in regard to real estate signs and the size for sale signs. The city regulates a maximum of 6 square feet, and we'd like to consider a potential for an ordinance that would allow slightly larger. And then also, in regard to the Waters project, you remember there was some discussion on senior housing and how our zoning districts work in regulating senior type housing. So I think we might introduce that topic. That's the one real substantive, quite significant zoning change. So we're thinking about those 4 in the next meeting or 2. That's all I have. I did want to mention at our next meeting on the 28th, I won't be here. I'll be attending the State Planning Conference, which is in St. Cloud this year. So Chris will be here and can go through some of those ordinances that we kick off next meeting.
Good, thank you. With respect to the York Gardens, we did receive a nice letter from one of the residents across the street thanking the Planning Commission and the City Council for moving on that issue, and it's always nice to receive somebody thanking us rather than not thanking us. We thank you for that. We thank you for the attention that the residents paid to that issue. Other comments from the Commission? Any other comments from staff? Okay, I would just point out to the residents who may be watching this presentation, we are going to be considering zoning ordinance amendments, getting that kicked off. So to the extent you are interested in that, please watch the agendas, watch the website, and participate in these meetings. We'd love to hear your comments. Anything else for the good of the order? All right, we will take a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chair, so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'm glad that end of the table's here. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.